Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Casual Chats. This is the show where we just chat casually about everything that's exceptionally irresistible. Here we highlight other incredible individuals that have incredible stories, whether it's in their personal life, professional lives, or in their business, or all the above. Such incredible people, such as right here, Bruce. He came in, he's the guy with the blue shirt. You're going to get to know him. Thank you so much, Bruce, for showing up today.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you for extending the invitation. And actually, it's kind of a nice full circle moment because I don't know if you recall, but we met probably just about 3 years ago in person
Yeah,
in Los Angeles. How about that?
that's correct. Yeah, we Los Angeles 3 years ago feels like a lifetime ago at this point.
Well,
We all moved on, we all changed. It's like it's crazy what happened in the last 3 years, but
yeah,
here we are. This is awesome.
yeah, but change for I would say predominantly for the good. Yeah, we've
Yeah,
had challenges, but if you look at things and take perspective, step back and take perspective, lots and lots of good things and lots of healthy growth, I think, for both you, myself, and all the shared common connections we have, because we have a bunch. So,
absolutely. Yeah, thank God. And it's only growing and that's what the whole community is about. But
yeah,
in a second, we're gonna jump into all that. I just want to read the bio that you sent us here.
sure.
And it's gonna be ticking down here as well. So a little bit about Bruce, igniting entrepreneurs, businesses, and high potential lady leaders to create flawless processes that eliminate massive amounts of steps, time, money, frustrated customers and teams forever.
Right.
Follow him at hashtag process cleanup, and he talks about hashtag LinkedIn Live, LinkedIn Local, process cleanup, business coaching, and simple, faster, and better. He
Right.
is known for these hashtags right here. He's incredible. If you're not following on LinkedIn, by the way, totally follow Bruce right here. The guy with the blue shirt, you can't miss him. So, Bruce, tell us a little bit about kind of like your journey. How did you get to be known even as the blue shirt guy, and like how did you get all this? Like take us a
Yeah.
little bit on your journey.
Yeah, so I'll cover the personal thing because actually a wonderful mutual connection actually came up with the guy in the blue shirt even before it became a hashtag, and that was Gracie Ruth Melendez. As you recall, we did a lot of in-person networking and helped each other in different groups. And Gracie couldn't always remember my last name, and sometimes it was just easier. Oh, so I heard her say a couple of times, "Hey, just go ask that guy in the blue shirt." And then the more interesting time she used it is when she did LinkedIn Local in Pasadena. She set that up
Mm-hmm.
just before the pandemic occurred.
Yep.
And I went over to not only support and help her, but I also sponsored the buffet for people.
Mm.
And during the intros and the thanks, she didn't use my name. She just said, "Oh, and the buffet was sponsored by the guy in the blue shirt." And it's like, okay, well, maybe I should do something with
Mhm.
it. And I didn't really think about it too much.
Sure.
I just decided to add it to my LinkedIn handle or profile, and it's taken kind of on a life of its own, and the guy in the blue shirt has evolved and
Mhm.
developed, and as you've heard me say before, Jeremy, if you stay in the three pillars that I use on LinkedIn, which is to learn and to prosper and to grow, you
Sure.
can't go wrong. And
Right.
and prospering is not just about the money. Yeah, I mean, cash flow is important for any
Mm-hmm.
business, but the real prospering comes from the elements that start to make up a community. And you
Correct.
mentioned it before. Once you get a strong community, hubbling and bubbling,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's amazing what you can do, both together and alone, and in partnership and in collaboration. But so that's the whole guy in the blue shirt thing. Probably way more than people wanted to know, but it
No,
was
it's great.
completely linked to
Mm-hmm.
certain things. But yeah, I was born in the UK, and I actually
Mm-hmm.
recently got to go back down memory lane there. That was an
Nice.
interesting learning, growing, and prospering experience for me personally. And I also had a technical career, and I basically followed in the UK the money. I was very
Mhm.
money driven, not experience driven. And eventually I worked for a company that was hostilely taken over by an American company. And through that journey, I was asked to come and work initially in St. Louis, Missouri, which is what I did. And fast forward a few months after I did a project for them, the CEO, actually, President CEO, reached out and said, "Hey, do you want to come work for me? You
Mm.
have some stuff and some things that we need." And I said yes. And I said, yes, as long as I come work for you, which was a great leadership decision on my part because I
Mhm.
learned a lot from him and it gave me a lot of latitude to exercise his span of control, So,
Wow.
and then since early in my career on the technical side, I went into supervisory, leadership, management, business turnaround. But the core of it has always been, my brain gets easily discombobulated. And that goes
Hmm.
back to being in a very busy household, in an
Sure.
all sisters, mom, grandmother household. So we have very little space, very little food, very
Mm.
little possessions. So what I learned to do is that the simpler and the more organized I could make things, the easier
Mm.
day to day life was. And it's kind of stuck with me. So that's my passion for what became simpler, faster, better, my methodology. And it
Mhm.
is because I'm useless at multitasking. I mean, bottom line, I have to focus on
Mhm.
one thing at a time and
Sure.
little baby things at a time. So that was the genesis for my passion for process improvement, which then led to continuous improvement, which then led to all these amazing things that I've been able to do, which is span 6 countries, 27 different industries, lots of experiences that, I would never ever have taken unless I said yes to Mike back in
Mm.
1994. He said, "Hey, come to
Wow.
St. Louis." And so, the power of saying yes. I didn't have all the
Sure.
answers. I was pretty scared, of course, pretty
Mm.
intimidated, but I said yes, and I made the best use of that yes. And hey, look where I am now. Completely
Incredible.
different. Yeah, a completely different individual in a country that I love, along with people that I would go to the end of the earth for to support. So love it.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I just want to touch a quick second. There are two things that you mentioned here that I'd like to expand on. The first thing is also just kind of like to tell the audience a little bit, more about what's this learn, prosper, grow thing. When you and I met, we met in a LinkedIn local of Los
Okay.
Angeles.
Hmm.
The one that was in, I think it was in the Fairfax district. I think it was in
Oh,
Hollywood.
yeah.
That was the first one we met, and then like what I've experienced from that networking event was more than just this random transactional, as I call it, networking event. There was a really transformative
Yeah.
element to it, and that kind of led me down the road of discovering what transformational networking is,
Hmm.
where it was all about getting to meet really high quality people. I think I'm still in touch with the majority of the people I met at that networking event,
Okay.
and it was
Yeah.
more of a community. It was less of a, hey, this is what I do, let's do business together. um, I met some good friends there.
Right.
You included, Gracie included, we have Joy included,
Yeah.
um, Sarah Koenig. A lot of these people I'm still in touch with on a daily basis almost, and it became this community, and it
Right.
expanded from one area of Los Angeles to Pasadena to
Right.
to
Santa
um,
Clarita.
Clarita. And I went to all of them. Why? Because I was part of a community. And it's
Hmm.
that element of that, learn, prosper, grow. That ingredient made it what it was. Absolutely incredible. So I just wanted to give a little bit more of a sort of like a context for the audience to understand what this actually means. We were learning, we were growing, we were not prospering necessarily money wise. I mean, there was some business that came out of it, but more prospering in the sense of like rich relationships that has lasted until now. And even though we're in different parts of the country, we're still here talking, which is unbelievable.
Well, and I think, prospering will lead to prosperity. And again, prosperity is multi-level, it's
Right.
multifunctional. And again, yeah, it's about that. It's almost like a higher level of networking. And
Right.
that's really what sets aside LinkedIn locals. So if
Hmm.
the audience are watching and they've never been to a LinkedIn local, you need to go, because
Right.
it's not a transactional business card
Hmm.
pushing activity.
Right.
There's always a learn segment, and there's high
Hmm.
quality learning from usually a really good speaker. Number one, there's the opportunity to grow along with others. So even if you're a
Hmm.
novice networker, there are other novice networkers there, but they're also highly tuned up,
Hmm.
highly accomplished networkers that will guide you through the process. And it's not
Right.
about, again, it's not about how many business cards can I exchange. It's about, can I get to learn how to collaborate with one or two special individuals, because that's all it
Hmm.
takes. If you just And now
Absolutely.
I call it, the prospering to prosperity. Now I call it, because I moved last August to another city and state, I call it looking for my jive hive. And
Yeah.
you
Nice.
know, so it's so the prospering and prosperity kind of
Hmm.
gets you into a group that might be, people you jive with, and you jive.
Hmm.
But now I'm lucky enough, because I've kept going with those relationships that started 3.5 years ago. And I'll do a sidebar, including Brian Schulman, because Brian Schulman is
Yeah.
the reason,
Hmm.
I decided and got help to become a LinkedIn Live host. I mean,
Wow.
just amazing. I mean, the
Hmm.
first time at those early networking meetings with LinkedIn Local, Brian was filming live and I didn't know. And he came up to me
Hmm.
and I had the badge on and he said, "Hey, Bruce, this is LinkedIn video." And he said, "Say something." And I went,
Hmm.
that was something, because he completely floored me. Number one. Number two,
Hmm.
I had never been live on video. And number three, I
Hmm.
hate even to take selfies. So, you know,
Right.
so so that one seed that Brian sowed at that one moment, I mean, it
Hmm.
took on a whole life of its own. And again, it's the right people. It's the
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
people, right process. You've got to work at it. It's reciprocal work.
Hmm.
Nothing comes for free, right? It's
Sure.
the investment that you make. But the places that we can go, the whole Dr. Seuss saying. And yeah, those people today, I mean, if I really, really need help, or I really, really need advice, I know I can reach out to them and they can reach out to
Hmm.
me, and we give it our best shot about, hey, what do you think about this, or where would I go for that,
Yeah.
and truly is a family as well as a community. So Jive Hive to
Right.
me is a superpower community and a family. So it's
Yeah.
become really high level now for me. So
So whoever's in the Arizona, what is it, Scottsdale area? Is that
Tempe, so I'm in
Tempe area?
Valley, which is Phoenix, Tempe, Mesa, Chandler, Gilbert, and
Right.
Scottsdale. Yep,
Yeah.
we have a lot of cities with a lot of great people.
So yeah, so whoever's in those areas and is watching here right now, hit up the man with the blue shirt, the guy with the blue shirt, and join one of those LinkedIn lives, because those are absolutely incredible.
Cool.
We're here in North Carolina, so anybody in the Asheville area, we're planning some LinkedIn locals in Asheville, in Charlotte, and then also somewhere in between in the Lake Lore area as well. We're planning those as well. So just keep your eye out. These kind of LinkedIn locals are going to be life transformative for you. You're gonna absolutely love them. Just go to one and you're gonna get hooked. So um, that was just something I did want to highlight because that was super important. And the second thing I wanted to ask you, you started mentioning about your passion. You know, what is the one sort of message that if you could go on like a rooftop somewhere and you could yell it and the world should hear it. What is that message that you want the world to hear?
Great question. So, what I've learned through the method of simpler, faster, better is you may not believe it or recognize it. There is always opportunity to save some steps and some time and some money
Mm,
or other resources. And what I find is that I'm very passionate about pushing the limits towards, what people can really see that they can do with their processes
hmm.
and not accept discombobulated processes as normal. And,
Right.
and, and I am amazed at how many people through either circumstances or maybe not so much leadership that they might be used to, they settle for, basically they settle for underperforming processes, and they shouldn't
Mm,
do that. They don't need to do that.
right.
There is always a way to go push the process, push the edge a little bit to squeeze a little bit more benefit from either saving some steps,
Mm,
definitely some time. Time, if you can save time, time is the only non-recyclable product out there. So once it's
sure.
gone, it's gone.
Hmm.
Other resources, money, and you can recycle stuff, but you can't recycle time. So I'm very passionate about pushing people to think not only out of the box, and the way I
Mm,
describe it is, imagine there's no box, imagine
mm,
there's no restraint, imagine there's no resource lack that would help you create the absolute perfect process for you. Right now, I know there's
love
not
that.
perfect processes, I know that, but it's a thinking
Mhm.
process. If you
Right.
could
Right.
think no box, what would my process really look like if I had the absolute ultimate process for me, and more importantly, the ultimate process for delivering value to your customers or
Sure.
your suppliers or your family or your friends? You can apply this stuff to any quadrant of your life that you like.
Mm,
It's not just for business. So
right.
that's why I'm passionate about pushing, 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 pulling for that very, very
Mhm.
last ultimate piece that you can get out of the process. And you'd be amazed what you can do with those processes. It's
Mhm.
staggering. So
Yeah, no, exactly that, and this is exactly that connection of why you're here on this exceptionally
oh,
irresistible show. It's because that's exactly a big part of the mindset we use at the exceptionally irresistible way, or
right,
that's what to us it means to be exceptionally irresistible in a sense that, you know, there's it's more than, let's say, I
yeah.
had a client and they're like, oh, my goal is to make it to the top of the list, and I
Mhm.
asked that client and I said, well, how about making it completely even off the list? Like get it, like the list is too low for you. Being on the top of the list is still too low for you. How about be even better than that? And it's really that one more step, that extra, go above and beyond.
Right.
And that and your passion, it definitely comes out right, right from the start, right from, like get you start talking to Bruce and it's like right away it's like, okay, this guy's more than just the average person. So
Well,
i'm,
back
I'm
to your
wondering.
list. So back to your list, I would say, well, how about
Mhm.
you are become the leader of the list for the
Right.
future, right?
Hmm.
Not only go to the top and beyond, but maybe you become the next leader of what that list should look like, and
Right, setting the
and then
bar.
a lot of yeah, absolutely. So design your own future and not let it be designed by somebody else. So because that's what I've also learned. Every process gives you exactly what it's designed to do.
Exactly that, and that's exactly answering my follow-up question. You literally just like answered
Sorry.
right before. No, but it's great. Thank you for doing that. It was just more like, how does that exceptional, irresistible, however you even understand it, and feel free to expand on your interpretation, but how does that play into, to your life and to the stuff that you're doing?
Yeah.
Feel free to expand a little bit more on what your understanding of exceptional, irresistible is.
Yeah, so I've actually never seen a process that can't be improved. And I've
Hmm.
never actually worked with a person that also can't improve themselves. I
Correct.
mean, you want to help them get there, but ultimately it comes. So when you realize that there is really limitless improvement available for process and for people, then what you start to do is you start to really stretch the edges of what is feasible, right?
Mm.
And when you really start to stretch those edges of what's feasible, you come up with all sorts of crazy ideas of how to solve the
Yeah.
problem, right? Because
Right.
ultimately, people only use people like myself and yourself when they have a problem that they can't fix themselves, right?
Right.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be needed. So,
Mm-hmm.
so to me, I find it absolutely fascinating that, you know, we do settle for less than we should, as you
Right.
pointed out. But sometimes people don't know what good looks like. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why I'm so blessed that through working in 6 countries and 27 different industries or more, something that somebody in a country or another industry takes as normal might be totally revolutionary for somebody else in a different
Right.
country or different industry. And so it's that experience, right? How do
Sure.
you bring that bag of experience and experiential learning to another environment? And again, that's why
Mm.
people should use specific mentors or coaches when they're really stuck, because
Right.
often that person's kind of seen it done
Mm-hmm.
or helped do it somewhere else, and they can help you fast track all this churn and rework and frustration. You don't have to go through all that. If you go to the right person for the right targeted activity, it can be breathtaking, and how stress free it can be to solve a problem. So
Yeah, no, yes, and this is what it's all about. It's this constant level of growth. It's every day we're growing, we're doing better. We understand that we're never perfect, but we're still always perfecting ourselves,
yeah,
and we're growing ourselves despite where the end journey is going to be. But it's this: if we're not growing, then we're stagnant. And it's like I had one episode where we spoke about life as a treadmill. If you're not walking forward, you're falling on your face.
hmm
So it's very much that growth thing. So I'm curious, if you would like to share with us what are areas that you're currently growing in your own, like in your own personal professional life.
Yeah, so that's a really, and actually, I will push back a little bit. I would say if you're not growing, you're actually going backwards.
Mm.
And the reason for that is that the cool thing about the pandemic is it's actually accelerated the rate of change.
Mm-hmm.
Number one. Number two, it's blown the barriers off the barn, or the barn doors off the barriers, about what type of technology and or hybrid working that can we create. So that's
Mm-hmm.
totally changed people's mindsets around how do people perform better. Well, they perform better when they're happy, comfortable, and feel empowered, right? So if
Sure.
you're not growing with all of those other contributing factors, I think you're going backwards. So,
Mhm.
but that's just my opinion, right?
I
So
agree.
we're
I'm saying when
all
you're on a treadmill and then you fall on your face, you're kind of like going with the treadmill
right.
backwards. So you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Mhm.
unless you are a miracle worker and you know how to jump back on the treadmill, but most people go on the floor and pick themselves up, Dustin. So
Mhm.
yeah, or they're standing stationary, right, as they
Mhm.
dust themselves off. So to me, the areas of growth for me is keeping being the product of my own process.
Mhm.
I'm as guilty as the rest. I try and cut corners sometimes. I try not to follow the process. I try and think, oh, well, I know better. I don't need to do all the steps. So being very mindful that you have to step back and review your
Mhm.
own process to be the
Mhm.
product to your own process is number one. Breathing.
Sure.
I get pretty amped up because I'm a high action person, particularly under stress. So when things aren't kind of going,
Mhm.
I have to remember to. So that's a very active thing, is learning to step back, breathe, go for more walks. I've been doing that even
Mm.
in the heat. So I've changed
Wow.
up my routine a little bit. Now I do night walks, which are actually surprisingly interesting, because
Mm.
you see some stuff at night that you don't see during the day, because the
Sure.
sun is so bright here that it obscures some of the view. So
Wow.
that, and then the other piece is really every day working on active listening. And looking at
Mm.
word patterns.
Mm.
So it's very interesting to me that if you
Sure.
really actively listen, and it's hard work and I find it very intense, but if you really actively listen and watch the word patterns that people write or communicate, it's almost like you can pick up on the gap between the words or the gap between what they're not saying to
Mm.
really understand what they are trying to say.
Wow.
So understanding the true meaning and what somebody's actually communicating to you is that one's a big one for me, because again,
Mm.
I'm high A. I'm quick to jump into action instead of
Sure.
just being quiet. I like to talk when I'm but sometimes
It's
not.
awesome.
So those are some pretty big.
Mhm.
And then the last one is actually really understanding, where did you come from, so that you can help people go there
Mm.
based on what they want to do with their time and life, right?
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I recently spent 10 days doing some personal, basically talking to my phone. I did some personal
Oh.
video dialoguing, and I actually literally went and took some walks all the way back to my very underprivileged basic upbringing, which I don't
Mm.
negative about. It's just, it is what it is. But I went and did, my first walk to my first school. What
Wow.
was the first walk I had to do to survive? Because, there were two levels of our housing estate that we lived on that was government run, basically a project here.
Hmm.
And the upper level was controlled by a gang from a
Wow.
certain house, and a lower level was controlled from a gang by another house. So I actually did
Wow.
the two walks. Now,
Wow.
today, it's still a little bit rough around the edges, but most of the housing is being invested in private ownership now. So the government
Wow.
or the local authority has no ownership of the properties, and it's amazing how the transformation
Good
is
change. Yeah.
really occurring.
Wow.
So yeah, and I was excited to see the house that I actually lived in, that was basically not too good. The
Mm.
person that now owns it has really put some effort into improving it, and there's a nice garden there now. And
Aw.
yeah, so it was.
That's incredible.
And then the final piece is I went to walk to. I used to have a handmade fishing rod too, because I lived in an all girl family. So sometimes I needed to kind of escape from that, because
Sure.
yeah, it was a little intense at times. So I made this
Mhm.
fishing pole from basically a wooden stick, and I actually walked to where I used to go, literally hide and fish on this little
Wow.
stream. And my little nook is still there, like
Oh, wow.
50 years. It's still there. I mean, I didn't go down to it, but I could. So that was a huge reminder that,
Huge.
sometimes going back to the place that you were really helps you understand the place that you've walked to. and
Right.
and then the final thing is I got to look at Salisbury Hill, which actually was the inspiration for Peter Gabriel to write the rock song called Salisbury Hill. And he actually
Mm.
lives still close by. He has a studio in a city called Box, a little town called Box.
Wow.
And yeah, you can see Salisbury Hill from where I used to live and where he now
That's
lives.
so
So that was
cool.
his inspiration for the rock song Salisbury Hill by Peter Gabriel. So
That's an inspiring share. I really appreciate that. It's really incredible, and I totally agree with you that sometimes we have to take a walk down memory lane to remember even the journey that we took until now, to appreciate it. And then sometimes it gives us insight into, oh wow, okay, maybe now I'm required to take a different step or a different approach, even if it's in my professional life, a different approach to my process, a different approach to what I'm
mhm.
doing. And taking that memory lane walk basically
Yeah,
makes sense out of the whole journey and kind of gives you insight into the next steps.
right.
So it's a great that's a great lesson. I'd love to do that one day. Now you've inspired me.
Yeah,
So it's incredible.
well, for me, I shared earlier, my brain gets easily discombobulated, and I had all this. I didn't realize I had all this stuff way, way
Mm,
down in my
sure.
memory that was actually really clogging me up. And it's only when I went and redid the walk that
Mm.
it's almost like it realigned my
Yeah.
brain and my memory. And it's funny because there were some things I'd forgotten all about. So as I walked to the first school when I was 5 years old, as I walked up to the gate of the school, which is a little different, I remembered something I'd forgotten all about. But they
Wow.
used to deliver little 1/3 glass bottles of milk every morning.
Mm.
And because we went to a government run assisted program school, they provided milk and lunch, and you
Wow.
had to drink the milk come what may, whether you like milk or not. And it didn't matter if it was in the winter, so it used to have ice on top in the
Oh,
winter.
goodness.
Summer, it used to be a bit yellow by on top. So
Oh no.
everything in between.
Wow.
And I'd forgotten all about that memory. But as soon as I stood
Mm.
at that school gate, I remembered having to run out before assembly, pick up your milk, drink the milk, and then you could sit down for assembly at this tiny little school. It was
Wow.
unbelievable. So
It's
stuff like
incredible.
that, just incredible. Yeah.
Sure.
And
So I
then
have my last I have my last question for you, Bruce. What if there was a person that you that inspired you or that inspires you or anything, and you had an opportunity to have a dinner with him or with her or that person, who would that person be and why?
well, can I mention a couple of people? Because there's past and present day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So past
You're
tense,
having a group dinner.
true. They still ate that. Past tense, I would love to have spent a couple of hours with Bertie or Winston Churchill, because I've
Mm.
seen some amazing documentaries about him, both good and not so good. But I don't know, there was something about him that I don't know how he inspired a nation to do
Mm.
all the things that he got different nations to do in the Second World War. So
Mm.
I'd love to kind of learn what did he do, how did he do that? Because he was an amazing leader, just
Sure.
unbelievable. And
Yeah.
there were some pretty tough times. The lady from the past would be Princess Diana. So Diana,
Mm.
her philanthropic. And then fast forward to today, I am still working on this, and I would love to be able to take Alexander Rossi, who's my biggest number one. I'm a fan of IndyCar racing. Alexander Rossi
Mm.
is he's just got some je ne sais quoi leadership about him. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
you can
Wow.
feel it. He's super cool. He's super smart. He knows when to talk and when to not say anything. I don't know.
Mm.
I would just love to be able to sit down and pick his brains about, how is he such a high performing individual driver, but also
Mm.
he fits in with a high performing team, because
Right.
car teams, the driver is the front pinnacle of everything that goes on behind the scenes. And
Mm.
yeah, those high performing teams are just unbelievable. And what reminded me of that is a couple of weeks ago, he crashed in practice and they had to rebuild his car
Wow.
from scratch. And they have 14 guys and gals from two different teams. And he was just watching and observing. He didn't say anything,
Mm.
but he stayed there in support for 2.5
Wow.
hours, watching them rebuild his car. And he managed to get literally within a minute back on the track for qualifying time. So
Wow.
unbelievable leader, unbelievable supporter.
Mm.
Talk about somebody that demonstrates how to learn, prosper, and grow. I mean, that guy and he was intensely watching and learning and listening, and he was just there in support of the team, because hey, he crashed the car, but these 14 people are rebuilding it so that he can go have another attempt at winning that particular race. So
Wow.
unbelievable.
Totally.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
imagine that you're there sitting in a cafe right now with Alexander, and you let all the butterflies just settle, because you're so nervous that you're sitting there in front of this awesome leader and everything. And just if you could paint me a little bit of a picture, what does it look like? You're sitting there in front of him. You're at a point where you're now calmer and you want to just pick his brain. What would the conversation look like? What would you be asking him? What would you be talking about? What does that look like to you?
Well, first of all, I gone, look at that, super goosebumpy. So thank you for taking me into that Imagineering, and I have imagined it a few times. Actually, I would just really want to know, firstly, what does he value,
Mm,
kind of what doesn't he value? So I'd like to kind of know what his values are, um, and then also to ask him what was probably the most significant thing that somebody either taught him or showed him to give him that, as I said, that je ne
mm,
sais quoi activity, because he's,
right.
these young leaders, and that's why I've referred to them as hypots, high potential leaders. These
Mm,
young leaders, they all have that same sort of je ne sais quoi, and it's almost like you can almost sense it and see it. It's almost like an energy glow around them.
mm,
We all know when we come upon it, right? We can
mm,
feel it, we can see it, we can sense
right.
it. So I would want to know what kind of changed him from, a little boy into this. What was it? What were the things that he really did to work on himself to get to where he is now? So
Nice. So
that's
I'll just say like this, like, tell me something. What kind of petrol do you put in your car? No, no, no. I mean, like in your life. Okay, yeah.
Oh, sure, yeah. Oh, he uses regular gas, like
I was just joking. Like
yeah,
basically, what's that juice that's keeping him going? But I like
yeah.
it.
I
I like
mean,
it.
yeah, because these high potential leaders, whether they're doesn't matter what they're in, whether in sport or they're in high performing teams of business or nonprofit, what they all have this. They have this
Right.
sparkle. They have this
Yeah,
something
it's
about
something.
them that is undefinable, but you can see it, feel it, touch
Mm.
it. It's almost, I don't know what it is, but
Yeah. Hey, that's what we call. They have something exceptional, and they're totally irresistible. You want to be around them. So
yeah,
that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So that does conclude our show today. This was
awesome.
awesome, Bruce. Thank you so much for taking the time. Ladies and gentlemen, whoever's watching this show, I highly encourage you all to reach out to Bruce. He's found on LinkedIn. So if this is being streamed on LinkedIn right now and you're watching it on LinkedIn, so I'm going to tag Bruce right here. But other than that, if you're watching it on YouTube, reach
Right.
out to his website, processcleanup.com or Bruce at processcleanup.com. The links are going to be here in the show notes as well on YouTube. And again, this is the man you want to get to know, even if it's just, hey, just have a chat with him, just see, get to know him. You never know. But that's what this is about. And again, remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is the show that highlights you. If you have something exceptional, irresistible, a message, a something, we want to invite you to come join us on this show. You know why? Because we believe that you have a fingerprint. And
Uh,
that fingerprint is all about leaving a mark on this world somehow, somewhere, and only you can do that. So come on to the show. Let's highlight you. Let's celebrate you. Let's empower you. Let's show you off to the world because you deserve it. So if you want to be on this show, it's either yearmekirkus.com or exceptionallyirresistible@gmail.com. Reach out to us, and we would love to have you on the show as well. So that concludes today's show. Bruce, again, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and stay tuned for another Casual Chats.
all right. Thank you, Jeremy. And yeah, don't be shy. Don't be shy. I was.
Right.
Not
Go reach
anymore.
out to Bruce.
Don't be shy.
Awesome stuff, guys. Thanks so much. See you soon, all. Bye bye.